And what he has done since then is continue to talk about and stand up for democracy. What you heard the president talk about last night is the importance of democracies prevailing over autocracies, of standing up and believing that that is what makes us strongest, being united in this country and being united abroad. That is very much what the theme of his January 6th speech was just 6 weeks ago, and how he thinks we all should be thinking about this period in our own history. So look, a speech like the State of the Union, it's hugely important. It doesn't have the time to touch on everything that is a priority. And there's no question that continuing to take steps to support the efforts to hold those perpetrators accountable is a priority for him. And continuing to stand up as a leader of the United States for what that day really showcased, the need to stand up for democracies, will be something the American people keep hearing from him.
Jen, one of the headlines that emerged from the speech last night was a pair of Republican House members who chose to heckle President Biden as he was speaking about his late son, Beau. Do you have any response to what they said?
Not really, Jonathan. I have to tell you that during that heckling, which I was watching it on TV with a group of my team members and colleagues, and we were all excited and cheering. And that was the moment in the speech where the president was talking about his unity agenda and talking about priorities that we should all be able to agree on. Look, 1 American dies every 5 minutes of an opioid overdose. There's no question we should do more to help our nation's veterans, people who have been hurt by the impacts of burn pits. Of course, we need to do more to work together to cure cancer. And they were heckling around that time and that moment. I think that says a lot more about them than it does about how important these priorities are and how much the vast majority of people who were sitting there watching in that chamber last night could work together to solve exactly those problems, and others too, probably.